Good afternoon.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all keeping well and safe. I'm Fatima Saliha, and I will be moderating this session for you today. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening for the open day for the Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program hosted by the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. And as you know, the Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program is one of the latest qualifications offered by SLIM. And SLIM has been producing generations of marketers in every possible avenue in the world of marketing for over 5 decades. And as the world of marketing evolves, SLIM keeps introducing new courses and programs to help the aspiring youth to pursue their education in their specific field of interest and build their career pathway. So like I mentioned, SLIM is known to do new things, to bring new things to Sri Lanka and to the world of marketing. So as the lockdown comes to an end and vaccination programs have been successfully conducted throughout the country, we need to prepare for the future. We need to prepare when we get out of our homes, so which also means to recover economically. And as per the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, 50% of all employees will recover reskilling by 2025 as technology takes over the world. With that in mind, the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing, in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, launched the Future Ready Sri Lanka campaign about a month ago. Now, we will be playing a video about this so that you get a better idea of what this campaign is about. But objectives of this program is to encourage the upcoming youth into entrepreneurship, innovations, skills, and to develop a society that will be prepared for the economic recovery. So without further ado, let's play the video and you would get a better understanding of what this program is and what SLIM has been up to lately.
අපි හැමෝම එකතු වෙලා රට පණගන්වන මෙහෙයුම ආරම්භ කළා. දැන් මුළු රටම අලුත් ගමනකට සූදානම් වෙලා. මේ ගමනේ සාර්ථකත්වය අපි හැමෝගෙම වගකීමක්. වෙහෙස වෙලා දහඩිය හලන්න වගේම අපේ බුද්ධිය මෙහෙවන්න අපට සිද්ධ වෙනවා. අවදානම් හඳුනාගෙන අලුත් සොයා ගැනීම තුළින් ඉදිරියටම ගමන් කරන්න නව මාවත් විවර කරගන්න වෙනවා. අපේ ගම වෙනුවෙන් ලෝකයේ තුල අපටම වෙන්නුණු තැනක් හදා ගන්න වෙනවා. අපි දැනුමෙන් සන්නද්ධ වෙමු. අපේ රට දැනුම් කේන්ද්‍රයක් බවට පත් කරමු. ඒ තුළින් අපේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගමු. එන්න එකතු වෙලා පණ ගන්නපු අපේ රට අපි දැන් අනාගතයට සූදානම් කරමු. Future Ready Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka අග්‍රාමාත්‍ය කාර්යාලයේ උපදේශය යටතේ මෙහෙයුමට සවිය තරුණ හා ක්‍රීඩා කටයුතු අමාත්‍යාංශය සමග SLIM ශ්‍රී ලංකා අලෙවිකරණ ආයතනය.
And that's Future Ready Sri Lanka, an initiative by the Sri Lanka Institute of Marketing. But it doesn't stop there. And you are here today at the open day for the Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program, which is a completely new topic to most of us here. And I personally can't wait to learn a lot about it. So launched by Slim 3 months ago, the Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program is the first professional qualification in data-driven marketing, and it's the latest qualification offered by Slim to empower the modern marketer. The Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program is designed to provide knowledge on essential data-driven concepts, provide skills to evaluate and identify the best practices and the emerging data-driven marketing concepts. And it also focuses on developing a comprehensive data-driven project, including data instruments, tools, and tactics that need to transform data to meet marketing and business objectives. Now, like I said, I'm in my capacity here as your moderator, and I'm curious to learn about this topic as well. So we have three speakers here on this call to enlighten you on this topic. So let me introduce you to the three speakers we have today, starting off with our guest speaker, Mr. Dinesh Dino, who is the co-founder and managing director of Alavi.ai. A quick hello to Mr. Dinesh. Thank you for joining us today on this Sunday evening.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
So Alavi.ai was launched in 2018 to promote the use of data science in the field of marketing. And Mr. Dinesh has over 20 years of global experience in IT infrastructure, security, digital strategy, and persuasive design consulting across Australia, Canada, the UK, and even in Sri Lanka. And Mr. Dino is also a lecturer for MSc and MBA programs for programs related to marketing. So it is a pleasure to have him here on board today. And I'm sure after Mr. Dino tells you about what data-driven marketing is, you would want to know how you could enroll yourself at Slim to pursue your higher education in that field and to build your career pathway. And for that, we have from Slim, first of all, we have Senin Bandara, who is a lecturer at Slim. Senin Bandara is the founder and the managing director of the Boutique Agency Network Private Limited and is a data-driven admin with a career of 14 years in integrated communications. And he's a pioneer in introducing modern-day data-driven advertising practices to Sri Lanka. Hello, Seninda, and thank you for joining us today on a Sunday evening.
Hello, and welcome.
So being the founder of Boutique Agency Network, he has served a range of local and global clients, including GlaxoSmithKline, Samsung, Hemas Consumer and Pharma, to improve data-driven integrated communications practices and to strengthen digital transformation. And in his journey of transforming data and digital practices in Sri Lanka, Seninda became the key digital resource personnel at Slim and became the course creator for the first ever diploma in digital marketing for Slim. And it is also a pleasure to have him on board today. Last but not least, to tell you more about how Slim and the data-driven marketing professional program works at Slim, we have Hassani Hete, the Senior Executive of Education from Slim. Hello, Hassani. Hope you're doing well. Hassani, you are on mute.
Hello, hi.
Hello. So I guess I've spoken enough and told you what is going to happen today. And like I said, I'm very curious to know about data-driven marketing. So I would pass it on to our guest speaker, Mr. Dino, today to tell you more about this field.
Thank you, Fatima. Let me just quickly share my screen. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Just a sec. My screen's not shared, right? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's visible now.
Cool. And first of all, I thank you, or I thank the Board of Study at Slim and the organizers of this event and it's an absolute privilege to speak to you guys on this inaugural day. I'm sure the folks at Slim may not know this. I actually started my first professional course at Slim about 25 years back, right? Where that was when Slim was at Doris Road. So it brought back some memories. Cool, awesome. So typically how the session will work is I prefer to always start with a question, right? And it'll be great if we can get some interaction from the audience, right? Even the folks at Slim, you guys can interact too. So with that being said, I'm going to kickstart the session now. So, have you heard anyone asking this question from you, right? In companies, right? Is your head of finance data driven? It's very rare that someone would ask this question. Maybe your head of finance, CFO, nobody thinks they are not data driven. But when it comes to marketing, people tend to question. They always think, hey, are these marketing guys actually data driven, right? Because to some extent, marketing has this reputation where it is seen as a art more than a science at times, right? Primarily because at times what happens is when things work, marketing teams claim that success, but when things fail, they find it very difficult to articulate why it failed. And they may blame it on the product, the market dynamic, and so on. So it's very important that if you're data driven, even in good times or bad times, you build this ability to clearly articulate your audience, why things work or why then things work, right? So that being said, I start with this question. My first question is that my friend has 2 kids, at least one of them is a girl. And it's very simple. My first point is my friend has 2 kids, and at least one of them is a girl. Now, my question is, what are the chances the other is a boy? Right? Let me repeat it again. My first question, my first point was, my friend has 2 kids, at least one of them is a girl. Right? My question is, what are the chances the other is a boy? Any thoughts, any answers? So these are my answers. Which one do you think is the answer?
50%.
50%. Anyone else who thinks it's 75, 85, 99?
50%.
Yeah. And some more answers.
50%.
So most of you think is 50%, right? Anyone else has a different answer? So the entire audience is saying 50%. Is that right to conclude? Yeah. Okay. So since there are no other answers, I am assuming that all of you say it's 50%. So let me go back to my previous point. That is, my friend has 2 kids. At least one of them is a girl. What are the chances the other is a boy? These were my answers. All 4 answers are incorrect. All 4 answers are wrong. Correct answer is, now, if it's BB, can it be a boy and boy? No, right? Because we already know one is a girl, right? Next is a possibility, right? It could be a boy or a girl, right? Girl, boy, it could be a girl, girl. In that light, the probability of that happening, that chance is 66%. Now, how did we get this wrong, right? How did we get this wrong? Now, this simple math, right? We've learned it in grade 9 probably, right? But we got it wrong. Now, what's important is that we are not, it's wrong to say that we are not data driven. We all are data driven, but from a business context, we need to have this mindset. If you look at the syllabus, the first session It's about building a mindset, a data-driven mindset. So it's absolutely critical that when we go into this work environment, right? There's background noise. If someone can mute the.
Mr. Dino, you are on mute. All right.
Okay. So it's absolutely critical to understand that when we go into this work environment, the environment at times controls us, right? And also as humans, we have certain biases, right? Unless otherwise, we are very data-driven, right? We are very data-focused. Sometimes our biases take over, and we probably end up making simple mistakes like this, which is very, very costly to the company, right? And I'll give an example, right? In companies, we all make forecasts, sales and marketing forecasts. If you take a typical sales and marketing forecast, it's a linear curve, a curve that goes always up. Nobody gives you a line that goes down, right? Now, if you go and present a forecast where it starts from up and goes down, the entire board is going to laugh, right? People might think, this guy is showing a downward, right? Nobody gives you a downward trend. I would take a bet almost 90% of our forecast at the beginning of the year, when we go and present this in front of a board, we always give these upward trending graphs, right? Why? Because when the HR person goes, he'll say that our employee retention is going up and it's an upward, right? And then the finance person will say, we've raised so much of money, we've saved so much of money, or he'll all give positives. But when sales and marketing folks go in, can they give a forecast that's a dipping? They don't, right? Because of social pressures, most often what happens is that, we tend to give a forecast which just goes up, right? It increases. But what happens in real world, or maybe after a few months, you don't meet your numbers, right? Why is that? One is that we make the forecast, right, assuming that the rest of the market dynamics remain constant, which is not the case, right? Your competition may do certain different things. There can be certain dynamics that are sometimes very hard to forecast, right? As a result, you end up doing less. And when you keep doing less and less multiple times, the trust in marketing, the word of the marketer gets diminished. The power is diminished, right? So, but if you have some way of explaining it using data, or if you learn to kind of make better predictions, I'm sure this course offers a lot of those, and Saninda and his team will teach you quite a lot related to these areas. So it's something that you need to kind of keep in mind. So the big questions, when marketers go to senior people in the company, and when they ask for money, for budgets to run campaigns and so on, there are a few questions that pop up. One is, how accurately can you measure the impact of marketing, right? We are a 15-year-old brand. Everybody knows our brand. Even if you don't market, people would come and buy. Now, when somebody throws a statement like that, how do you defend that, right? You need to have data, right? Or they may even ask, like, which channel should we invest in, right? Should we put in radio, TV, digital, right? That's a question that you need to be able to answer, right? And the other question in today, most senior executives might ask is, what's the lifetime value, right? You're saying you're going to bring people into the store or into the site. When somebody lands on your page, when somebody comes to a store, right? You're spending so much money in marketing. Our cost of acquisition is higher, right? Do you think we can make more money as this customer engages with us over time? Or you might even go and say, sir, now we are offline business, we want to go digital. Right? The question, or you might even say that we want to, build an app, right? But how do you justify that, right? So you have to have some data mechanism to stand by your request, or you should also have the mechanisms to clearly justify to the board, gain their confidence in terms of getting these budgets, right? Or also there are a lot of data that's already in the company. So you go into a new company, right? You can easily leverage the existing data that's already there, right? So I'm sure some of the fundamentals that we taught in this course will help you, or will train you to kind of look at this data and then start and then making some big impact in this organization that you guys will represent in the future. And the other challenge, product differentiation is minimal in the eyes of an average customer, right? You stop a person on the road, and if you ask that person, what's the difference between a savings account from, say, NTB and HSBC, they wouldn't know. Right? Product differentiation very minimal, right? And companies are throwing in a lot of ads, a lot of communication. Today, they are bombarded. When they get to the car radio plays some advertisements. When they open their computers, they see that. Or when they switch on TV, they see that. So they're bombarded with info, right? Sometimes because of this excessive information, people tend to shut themselves as well, right? Unless otherwise you have very strong data unless otherwise you have very strong ability to clearly segment, identify who should I be targeting, your messages or investment marketing will go away. Right now, with digital, there you can very accurately target an individual, right, or people who are very somewhat similar. Right now, typically, if you take a web visitor who lands on a web page, there are about 200 plus variables that are captured and stored. Now, marketers can dig into those data, right, and then do very granular level targeting. Right? And the other thing is that customer touch points are diminishing, right? You don't see the customers eye to eye now, right? As customers move online, right? When you are in front of a customer face to face, you can read their body language, facial cues, and you can make certain judgment calls. But now you don't have that, right? The number of touch points are diminishing. So in a world where these touch points are diminishing, right? But the number of digital touch points, the data points are increasing. If you can learn to decipher these data points, then you significantly improve your ability to do better. And the customer journey is getting complex. People find you on TV, radio, newspapers. Then that journey moves into online, and then offline, multiple connections. I'm sure you will learn all this during this course. But it's important to understand there are multiple touch points, right? There are a lot of data points that are captured. If you look at the amount of data that is there in the world, in the last 2 years, we've managed to bring in 90% of the world's data, right? So actually, all the data that is created in the world, right, 90% of it is created in the last 2 years, right? And that's about 60 zettabytes, massive zettabytes there. 1 zettabyte is actually 1 trillion gigabytes. Our home computers are 500 GB gigabytes, right? Now imagine 1 zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes. World has about 6 zettabytes data. By 2025, it's estimated to 3 or 4 times, right? So us skilling ourselves to understand, look at data is very, very important. It's absolutely essential. Now here is a simple challenge. In marketing, we all know of.
Mr. Dino, you are on mute again.
You guys else is speaking, and then when this happens, it automatically gets muted. I'm sure. I'm my answer off the computer, anyways.
Yeah.
Right. So here's a scenario, right? In marketing, we learn about funnel. So if you take this example, right, the company is spending 10,000 rupees in marketing, right? By doing that, they reach 1,000 people, right? Out of those 1,000 people, 100 people kind of interact after seeing your advertisement, your communication, and then 10 end up buying, and then 1 become very loyal, is a repeat customer. Now, if you have a scenario like this, and you walk into a company and you want to improve this, right? How will you approach this, right? So given the fact that you hold the marketing budget constant, right? Somebody gives you the money and says that I'm only going to give only 10,000 rupees, right? But you need to improve the performance. Now, how would you approach this? At a very high level, what you could potentially do is you can flatten the funnel. When 1,000 people interact, if you can convince 200, sorry, when 1,000 people see your ad, if you can convince 200 to take action, provided everything happens in the same manner, you can potentially increase that. What you could do is potentially flatten the funnel. The other thing that you could do is you can increase the velocity. Say, for example, from the time that somebody sees your ad till they become a customer, right? Say, let's assume it's 4 weeks. Now, if you can figure out a way to reduce that timeline, the time to sale, time to purchase, time to conversion, if you're speaking digital terms, if you can reduce that, for the existing budget, you bring in a lot of value into this company. Now, how can you do that? Only by looking at data or by understanding data. Now, I'm going to ask a question. Say you go into a company and then you improve your performance by 1%. Is that a good thing? Or does 1% actually matter? Any thoughts? So no one's going to, give a lot of respect for you. Sorry, yeah.
1% matters.
1% matters. Okay, right? Say you are a say 100 billion rupee company and you improve the performance revenue by 1%. It may not be as big as what the company probably owns, right? But the data-driven mindset is such that you should always, or most often, look at smaller increments, continuous. Right now, one example is that there is a theory called theory of marginal gains. What this means is that if you improve 1% every day in some form, you look at the entire organization's data and you figure out a way to improve something by 1%. So if you are starting at 1, you are increasing it by 1%. Over 365 days, you can potentially improve the performance by 37 times. Right? It's amazing, right? Though we look at these percentages, be very tiny, but if you have a continuous improvement process, a very small 1% daily, right, increases to 37 folds. So if you don't, let's assume that you can't do it, find something that you can improve over a period of 365 days. If you simply reduce it to say 100 days, if you improve this 1% over a period of 100 days, you can potentially triple the performance, right? It's amazing, right? These small numbers do matter. Now, my question is, what happens if your performance gets worse 1% every day? Right? Flip side of that, right? You start at 1 and you end up here, right? It's detrimental, right? So 1% decrease in performance significantly impacts you too. So it's important to look at how we look at data and how we can train ourselves to look at data, right? Don't look for big gains. In the process, you may lose out smaller gains, but it should be a continuous process where we bring in a lot of data touch points, and then eventually if you have a workflow where we have a set process within the company where you say every division that every 2 days or every week can you find a new data point, right? Have a competition within the company. You will be surprised to see that what you could do within your own organizations. And in terms of marketing measurements, it's simply this, right? Acquisition behavior outcomes. You can take any marketing sales program in the world and use this filter. Look at the people who bought from you outcomes. It could be a purchase, or it could be somebody filling a form, making a phone call, whatever that outcome your marketing effort was focused on, right? You look at the people who bought from you, go back and see prior to purchase, how did they behave? Did they call us 2 times? Did they request for a brochure, right? Or if it's a website, you can see prior to them filling a form or buying a product, did they come 2-3 times to our site, right? Look at the people who bought from you, go back, and then go back to acquisition. That's where you look at your messaging, the ad, or the creative, or the newspaper where you put the ad in. Look at all of that. Now, once you do that, you'll start figuring out a very simple example would be people who buy high value products from us or from Candy prior to purchase, they call us 2 times and they very specifically looked at this newspaper, right? Because once you invest in newspapers, when you put a newspaper ad, you can have separate phone numbers or email address for each newspaper. Then you know to some extent that that lead came through a specific newspaper. By doing that, you can significantly improve. The next time you're going to take your money and you're going to invest, focus on those folks only, right? Let's say if it's digital, you say, prior to people who bought from Candy, prior to purchase, they come 3 or 4 times to my site. They looked at the specific ad, they clicked and so on. Now you're going to launch a specific campaign targeting people in Candy, right? You're channeling all your budgets there. That immediately improves your performance. The second thing is look at the negative outcomes. People who landed on your page who didn't buy from you. Right? Look at them, right? Now, if you look at that, I'm just throwing an example where most people who didn't buy from your site are people who have used a mobile device, right? Which means your site may not be loading, rendering well on a mobile device. Fix that. And you'll naturally improve your performance. Right? So here's another question. Right? You've been hired to start a supermarket chain, right? Some supermarket chain, and they want you to open your first outlet. And where would you start it? Any thoughts? What would be your strategy? What would be your location?
The participants can also use the chat option to add their answers into it.
If possible, another supermarket chain in front of it.
Right. Why would you do that?
Because they could see they could see while they visit the existing one, they could see the other and just try it out.
If they're existing, if they visit, what you're saying is that
It's like the one place they would go.
Right. Okay. All right. Interesting. Any other thoughts? But don't you think that if you open in different location, you have a higher probability of getting more people onto your store or supermarket? You don't think so, is it?
My initial answer came us to be where the competition is.
Right.
Right. The other part is true, yeah, it does matter, but then we have to see where it's more congregated with the traffic. In
Right.
a sense.
So there's a third company that comes after you, then where should they position themselves? Right? They will also come closer to you, right?
Yeah.
So actually, you're absolutely right. Now, if you see when you go on a trip, say you want to have a cup of coffee, you look at both sides of the roads, there are no cafes. Suddenly we get to a place, you see a bunch of cafes closer, right? Now, and then it's very similar. If you see most of these companies, Cargills or Satos or Keys, all of them are in the same business. If you take the banks, all banks are crowded. Why is that? Right? There is a scientific principle behind it. So this is a part of game theory that we teach in data-driven marketing. You're absolutely right, but there's a big scientific reasoning also. I'll show you a simple example. Now, this guy, he is selling ice cream on a beach, right? On a 2-kilometer beach, right? Where should he put his shop? On this side of the beach or the left or the right? Anyone? This beach is 2 kilometers in length. Now you're going to sell ice cream, right? Where would you put your car? Left or right?
Right smack in the middle, I guess.
Right smack in the middle. Anyone else? The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Can that influence this decision?
I was thinking first single tree so that nobody will come because there are so many trees on the other side.
Okay, all right. Let's say if you have equal amount of trees. Anyone else wants to give a try? Yeah, I think the logical step is to write in the middle, right? Because people from both ends can actually visit you easily. Because if you put it on one side of the page, it's very difficult, right? So it's good to set it in the middle. Now, when a competitor comes in, what happens? The dynamics change, right? Now you have a chat with the new entrant and you negotiate saying that, hey, let's split the beach into R, right? You'll be in the center of the left side half and I'll be in the right side, right? You negotiate and you amicably you guys agree, and then you launch this, and you go live, right? It's fair and square, right? But what happens is competition kicks in. Lisa thing comes early next day and sets a cart right in the middle. Now what happens, right? Lisa's going to come. This lady is going to pull all their customers, right? Then you are left with only 25% of the customers, whereas she has the ability to get 75% of the customers. What will naturally happen is, you'll keep moving places. Your competition naturally gets closer to you to get the majority of the share, right? And what happens when they keep doing this? Nobody is in a position to improve, right? Because they're all setting up in the center, right? And at this point, you can't improve your efforts. Most often, our competition is also like that. Now, we are all marketing in a certain domain, certain location, certain space on the web. So we need to figure out new ways to innovate so that we can attract customers to our stores, right? So in that sense, once we train ourselves to look at data in some innovative different ways, we can make a huge impact to the companies that we work. Right? So why should we be data driven? It's eventually to figure out what's working, what's not, and ultimately grow our businesses. Right? To grow our business, what do we need? We need actionable insights. I mean, you can look at a ton of data and come up with interesting data points, right? But if these insights don't make an impact, right, it becomes useless. Literally, any insight is useful, right? For example, now if somebody tells Prince, like, you're losing hair, what can you do about it, right? This is good piece of info, right? Yeah. But can he make a difference? Or it's impractical, right? You can't change certain things. So when you're looking at data, we should also train ourselves to look at data in a fashion where we can, take this and go and show it to our senior management. It excites them where they can action. For example, if you tell Prince Harry his fly is open, he is going to zip it up, right? Your data or the insights that you take should be easily actionable, right? People should see some tangibility, right? The outcome, right? Like zipping up. Now, once you keep doing that over and over time, right? If you give insights that are long term, people will start believing you, right? So, in terms of data, there are two things. Right? There are things that we know. There are things that we don't know, right? For example, if you look at this quadrant, known knowns, things we are aware of and we understand, right? And there are certain things that are unknown, things we understand but we are not aware of. There are things that we are aware but don't understand, right? There are things either we are aware, no understand. Now, if you take all the information within the company or about your competition, if you're building a strategy, you can slot all this into these 4 quadrants, right? Once you do that, you can come up with a very interesting workflow, right? Things we know are facts that may be wrong, so data should be checked again. So you can go in and re-verify whether that's accurate. Second thing that you could do is things things we know and we don't know, right? Our questions we can answer by reporting, by doing a bit of research and so on, right? And things we know are intuition, right? Our gut says that, if you do this, this will improve, right? So try to quantify your gut, right? Sometimes in companies, people or bosses may say that I've been doing this for the past 25 years. Don't simply go and do this, right? Now that's fine. Through the intuition, through the experience, they may say that, and once you do it, it may work. But you should also have the ability to figure out why it worked, right? Because you can't wait another 25 years to gain that experience and then do it again. And there are things we don't know and we don't know, right? Explore, reading, knowledge, having a learning process within the company should help. So once you follow this course, I think this will open your eyes into the world of data and data-driven marketing. I mean, this is just a first step. From here, you can start improving yourself. right? And how do you find these insights, right? There are two possible simple methods that we can use to improve insights or find insights. If I give you a data set of all the uh, Game of Thrones characters, right? What I give you is their weight and the food consumption data, ton of data, right? And my question is, we need to find an insight to help these folks lose weight, right? How would you approach this? I have all the data in terms of weight and the food consumption. I give this data to you, and your goal is to find insights to help these folks lose weight. Now, how would you do that? First thing is to segment it, find commonalities in any data set, right? The best way to do is look at some common elements. For example, what I told you before, look at the people who bought from you, go back and figure out how did they behave, where did you find it. Very similarly, have a mindset to bucket them. Here you can look at the people who have the ideal weight, overweight. You've taken these two separate sets. Then what's a common characteristic? If you guys have watched Game of Thrones, you would know these folks drink a lot of wine, right? These three folks drink a lot of wine. Right? It's wine, right? So your recommendation is the insight is people who consume wine are more likely to maintain the body weight. Right? Recommendation, your actionable insight is drink more wine, right? This simple example, just I wanted you to understand. And when you see data, don't freak. There are a lot of information. Try to find commonalities. Start bucketing them. The other element is data segmentation. What you could do is you can take your data and break them into profitable and unprofitable segments. People who bought from us didn't buy from us, right? For example, if you take the online world, you can simply look at people who buy off a desktop, tablet computer, mobile device, right? People who buy from a desktop computer, the conversion rate is probability of purchase higher. Don't put money on the other devices, simply target people who are using a desktop computer, right? It becomes profitable, right? And you can even, in the online world, you can dig down performance by browsers. People who use Internet Explorer 11, that browser is converting well, right? You can actually today target people who use a specific browser as well. When you do that, you naturally improve your performance. So thing is, use segmentation, break your audience into profitable and unprofitable. Then you start figuring out, once you have profitable segments, launch dedicated marketing efforts, target them. And if you find unprofitable ones, keep segmenting them, dig down further. You might see certain commonalities until you find a really good answer. Keep doing it over and over. Right. Like here's an example. When this company took the data of people whose order values are lower or higher, when they went in, people who used high-end devices, where screen resolution is high, like a Mac Apple device, the order value is higher. So they started targeting people on an iPhone or a Mac and so on. This is some of the examples. Here another classic example of Airbnb. Right? Airbnb had a challenge. They wanted to improve the number of room nights per customer. What they did was they looked at the data in two forms: properties with low number of room nights and properties with higher number of room nights. They started segmenting this. One thing that they realized was the properties with higher room nights had really high quality images. So what they did was Airbnb hired 20 photographers and sent them out to these properties, and they took these photographs and then they put it back on the sites. What happened was, from 2009 to 2010, in 2011 and 2012, they exponentially grew simply by figuring this out. Right? They simply hired 20 photographers. That's all they did. It's a very low cost exercise. They did it, and they significantly improved the performance of the company. Always look for some quick wins and smaller wins rather than trying to crack a very large win. Is something that I want to re-advocate. Right? And here's another question: is using data always a good thing? You can also use data to do some shady things too. I just want to show you guys some examples, right? So we all heard of cost-benefit analysis, right? Would you support smoking? Right? This happened in Czech Republic. Philip Morris is the company that makes cigarettes, right? They went to the government and said, costs, increase in healthcare costs. The government is spending a lot of money, right? The benefits, they get tax revenue and so on, right? And with this data, they went to the company and said, if you don't tax us, if you let people simply smoke and die, right? The net gain is $147 million for this, right? Because the government was, spending a lot of money on pensions, housing, and all other things. They said, no, don't tax us. Let the public smoke, right? And when they smoke, when the probability of dying increases, when that happens, right, you end up saving about $140 million, right? And there was a big public uproar, right? And there was another famous case, Ford Pinto, right? This specific car had a fuel tank at the rear. When you meet with the rear end collision, the tank explodes, right? So Ford had to withdraw all the vehicles and redo this. Now, when they did the cost, right, it was about 100. They required 137 million to improve safety, right? But what they said was, when somebody meets with an accident, when they die, when they pay compensation, our cost is only about $50 million. And they said, let's not go down and fix it. There are a lot of backlashes, but here's how some companies think too, the dirty side of data, right? I'm sure we have all heard of these things, right? Sri Lankans can drink really well. Sri Lanka ranks #1 in alcohol consumption per person. We've heard that, right? Dinner table conversation. Sri Lanka, country with the highest suicide rates, right? We say, a lot of people are dying. Sri Lanka is a country, most number of deaths due to snake bites. We've heard these three things from our friends, family, all of that. And none of this is true, actually, right? None of this is true, right? See, in terms of alcohol consumption, we probably placed at the 30th or the 40th in the world, right? There are many other countries where people consume a lot of alcohol. So the reason I brought this in is, we need to learn to challenge conventional wisdom. When you deal with people who bring out of data, they say, according to research, according to McKinsey. When people throw those things, you need to ask them, can you please send me that data set? Or can you please send me the link to that site? Don't take, because somebody quoted, it's from some data source, right? Or it's because they did some analysis. Just ask for that, right? Because you should not be fooled by folks who are good at data, right? Learn to challenge conventional wisdom. That's something that you need to train over time. So I conclude this with a quote: "In God we trust, and everyone else should bring data." This was a famous quote by Edward Deming, an American mathematician. It is true. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Over to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Dino. There was a lot to learn from that presentation, a lot of questions and new things that we learned from. So like Mr. Dino said, any questions from the audience is welcome. You can definitely drop your questions in the chat, and we could entertain those questions towards the end of the session. And thank you very much, Mr. Dino, for that presentation and making it an interactive session. So now that we know what data-driven marketing is, let's see how things work at Slim. So for that, I may pass the floor on to Seninda Bandara, who is the lecturer from Slim. Seninda, you are on mute.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. So thank you so much, Fatima. And then it was a great presentation by Dinesh to set the context right. And so this particular course offered by Slim, I think even you all mentioned earlier. So it's basically the course is also introduced with a kind of a vision in mind for a future ready Sri Lanka. And like, in order to make a future ready Sri Lanka, that you need to have like the core essence of Slim is to have future ready marketers. So therefore, like with that in mind, when it comes to this particular course, so it is actually designed in a way to not just to like as just another course, or as just another like sort of a program to give a qualification, but this is much more beyond that. It has this whole idea or the concept of training people for the future ready Sri Lanka. So especially to give that insight to the students who are getting engaged with this particular course, to have a deep understanding of what exactly the whole concept of data-driven marketing, and how do we really absorb that in our day-to-day life, and then how we can really contribute towards the country with the learning that we are getting. So, so with that context, like this particular course is designed in a sort of a structural way, where like it's starting with training the mindsets of the students, like to help them to have a data driven mindset. So like in the first session done by Dinesh, exactly taken you through a very rational kind of approach, in a way to show the numbers in a way that how we can get insights out of those numbers. But then again, there is a emotional connection. So the numbers are not always coming from a Excel sheet, but also you have to observe certain things and gain, like rather you need to identify insights out of it. So since I'm coming from advertising background, and so I believe advertising is pretty much like sometimes it's like the heart and soul of like in marketing process. So being in advertising for so many years, and sort of working for many multinational agencies, and sort of working with multinational brands for past so many years, so we have actually sensed that how the world is also changing. And like even so, I mean, it's just like like how birds are getting getting a sense of like if there is a weather change happens, so they are the first people to sense that. So likewise, I also believe like advertising people are the ones that who's going to sense like a lot of things related to marketing, how these changes are going to happen. Because since we get exposed to certain things in certain ways, so I believe that in fact it has also shown that like from a global perspective, the world is also nowadays like considering, even in terms of the function of advertising, has seen in a very completely different way. It's not just the idea based business that what we used to have a couple of years back, but now from a global perspective also the biggest pressure is on or sort of the talk of the town is on data driven advertising and data driven creativity. So even if you take a look at the global advertising festival, the creative advertising festivals, they do have a particular category, and then like most of the campaigns which has won like awarded with Golden Free awards, also they have won the data driven part of that as well, because these globally also brands are considering it from a data perspective. And Dinesh set the example, or sort of set the stage why it is important and why it is happening. So I'll tell you one more thing, or rather I'll add one more thing into it, because something which is happening in the world, and like this is a term which is called VUCA world. So which means that it's a military term, and now later on it was being used in marketing, or sort of in the business vocabulary. So VUCA means it's volatile, and uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity in the business that we are like right now we are operating in. Any business that we are operating in, it's so much of volatile, because and also complex. We don't know what is going to happen, like especially looking at it from the pandemic point of view. We still like it's very volatile. We don't know like how things are changing in a very short time period. So likewise, the future world is also going to be like that. So there won't be any change going to happen. The world is not going to be slow as we used to have like a couple of decades back. The world has becoming more fast and fast. And on the other end, like the technology advancements has made it's very fragmented in terms of media consumption. So like the early days when I started advertising, so I started in a media department of ad agency, and like at that time, so it was advertising vocabulary was TV, radio, print, And so digital, I think that was the early stage of digital. We just started, but no priority were given. But now in today's context, your global media strategy or the creative or the advertising strategy starts with your, like, it's a digital core. The reason why it's digital, because one, people are spending more time on, platforms, content. They consume a lot of content whenever, wherever they are using their mobile phone. So there are so many different touch points, or sort of so many different newer platforms, from social media to so many different things. Like, they consume content, entertainment. On the other end, they buy stuff, while they are on their way. So many different things are happening, because the way how people are consuming a product has also changed because of all of that kind of a fragmented world. So therefore, with all of that is happening, and then when people are making so much of decisions and exposed to so many different things using their, like, mobile phones, and then, like, through the internet, that when they expose to so many different things, that the amount of data that is being created is immense. So as a result of that, there is so much of data. Unlike in the past, if you want to make a decision, like how people think, it's not just, like, your insights. Like many years back, the way how especially the marketers as well as the advertising people used to think is, like, your insight came at pubs and bars, and, like, in certain different places, or rather while you're sleeping, you get ideas, like not the idea but the insight that you tend to like, you tend to get it by, associating with some sort of a like, day-to-day life association. But in today's context, your insights absolutely coming from the real human data. It's basically when people are associating with platforms, touch points, and so many different ways that you tend to collect data. And that data is connected with any particular part of the journey of that person. Is basically, if it is related to a product, then it could be coming from a specific part or a specific stage of the journey of that person, is, like, sort of going through that process. So therefore, it's very important. Like, the role of a marketer is also becoming more and more complex. Like, the days that we used to learn about marketing, though the core concept of marketing remains the same, and the complexity and it has much refined now, that you can identify the real needs and wants of consumers by identifying that from the real human data, not just from your assumptions, but it's from a pretty much from a real time or other real human point of view. And so therefore, the function or the role of a marketer is also getting more complex, and becoming, you need to have so much of skills developed within yourself. It's not just, how do you create a marketing plan, but, beyond that, how fast you can make decisions is going to be the next biggest challenge when it comes to a marketer in the future. Not just the future, but even like even in today's context, that's exactly the same scenario. So therefore, in this particular course, that, it is taking you through so many different elements, I guess. So there will be some sort of introduction on specific parts of the course, or the specific parts of the modules. But, now what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to take you through all those modules, but, like, in a way that how this was structured is like starting with changing the mindset, and then it is giving you a kind of understanding of what is data and analytics. Like, starting from a very layman and a very fundamental point of view, first, that what you need to know, or rather what you need to have, is to have a proper foundation, or sort of having the right building blocks. So that is how the initial stages of this particular course is structured. So to give you the basic, the core, what you need to know. And then once you identify that particular core, then it is a matter of learning very specific areas that matters to a future ready marketer. So in terms of fundamentals of data and analytics, that you get a better understanding of what you mean by data and analytics, how does it work, and then connecting that with statistics. So because that is one of the area that most of the marketers we take a look at, like, in today's context, that we tend to see a lot of marketers are having lack in terms of statistics. So this particular course, like, you can't really get into data driven marketing without having a kind of a better idea on statistics as well. So in this particular course, that certain areas of statistics also will be provided to you all for you to get a kind of a understanding on that. And then it also connecting with like certain specific areas, like how do you really collect data, and probably it's going to give you a understanding on what you mean by different types of data, like first party data, and how does it really matters, like how do you identify these data from consumers. So likewise, it take you through an entire process of how do you like gradually becoming a person who has more capabilities. Then it moves on into certain specific other specific areas, like how the connection between machine learning or other artificial intelligence and data driven, and how these things are getting connected, and also like to have a better idea of how the consumer journey, how do we really map that from a data perspective, and then how do we really connect all of that with a agile marketing mix. So even the marketing mix can be worked in agile point of view. And there will be another session, like there will be one specific session on data driven creative advertising, which hopefully I'll be getting involved in that. So that will be a very specific session for you to get an understanding of how do we do advertising. Like advertising is a creative business, and how do we do creative business from a data perspective, and that's how the world is operating right now, and we sense it how things are changing and how things are actually challenging. And then it moves into so many different things, like one of the specific area even Dinesh also highlighted at the beginning, so in terms of the conversion rate optimization, and that becomes a very important part of a function of a modern day marketer, more than earlier, like the marketing fraternity what we have seen like 10 15 or rather 20 years back. Their key focus was to have a greater campaign, like to have awareness, and having pretty much on the awareness parameters. But now in today's context, more than awareness parameters, that people are considering about the conversion rates. So therefore all of that, and finally I think this session, or rather this entire course, is going to connect you with blockchain, like to give you a kind of understanding on blockchain as well, and then how blockchain technology is going to get connected with marketing process, and why it is important for you to learn that now, because that's how things are going to change in the future. So likewise, if you get all of that together in this particular course, that what you learn is that you'll become a kind of a marketer that has a wider range of knowledge, but not just the knowledge, but also from a marketer's point of view, that you have a skill set, that there will be certain things that where you get to learn about creating your own data visualizers. So it's very important not just to learn about marketing, rather data driven marketing, but also get involved in the data driven marketing process by actively getting involved. Like you have your own data visualizers, so you will see the specific data points the way how you want it, and then through that you learn, you gain those insights. So that's how it works. So I think the importance of this entire program will be like within few months you will get a kind of a greater understanding on how do you really elevate your skill set, or as a marketer, how do you elevate yourself to a certain level, and that level is absolutely the requirement in the future for any particular marketer in the future. So it's a great initiative, and it's a great starting point, and right now to start, or rather begin your future ready marketing career like this way. So that's pretty much what I have to say from my understanding from a resource panel point of view. So I think if you have any other specific questions, maybe like you can. So Hassani is also here, so you can like ask any questions. So I think probably she's going to take the next session to give you a deep understanding of the course. So that's pretty much about it from my end. So I think you learn a lot, and also you will obviously going to enhance your skill set. There's one thing that I want to mention, and so like in tomorrow's marketers, or rather future ready marketers, as I told you, that you need to have a wider range of understanding of so many different things. And it's not just from the theoretical marketing, but beyond that, like from a data perspective, there are so many different things that you need to learn. So in terms of providing that knowledge, so it's not really going to, like you're not going to get the traditional marketers going to train you on that, but the ones that who are really experts in the fields of very specific areas related to data-driven specific areas related to this particular entire program. So you get people from across industries, and that is the most important thing that you are going to get, because you get the best out of the best resource panelist in Sri Lanka, which related to this subject called data-driven marketing, or rather the area called data-driven marketing. So that's pretty much about it. So if you have any questions, maybe you can ask maybe after the session. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Any questions could be typed into the chat. Thank you, Saininder, for giving the audience a deeper understanding about why they should follow this course at SLIM as well. So over to Hassani to talk more about how this works at SLIM.
Thank you. Let me first share my screen and we'll start it off. Right. Let me first of all warmly welcome you again on behalf of SLIM to the Data-Driven Marketing Professional Program. So like we discussed even previously, the program is actually designed to provide you with knowledge on the essential data-driven marketing concepts, and also to provide you with the skills that is required to evaluate and identify what are the best practices and the emerging concepts of data-driven marketing, because this is one of the industries which is having a high job demands in upcoming future. So this program should be the right fit and the best qualification that you can actually get from SLIM. And also the program here focuses on developing a comprehensive data-driven marketing project, where you will use data instruments, tools, and tactics to transform data to meet your company objectives, and also to facilitate your effective and efficient data usage for the marketing decisions. So anyone who enroll for this program, what we as SLIM intend to give you the best outcome is that we have outlined 5 learning objectives here. So you should be able to tick off each of these learning outcomes at the end of the 4 months, and to see whether you have actually learned the intended learning outcomes of SLIM as your take-home outcome. So the first is actually to explain the essential theoretical concepts related to data-driven marketing, the functions and applications. And second is to identify the importance of data and the analysis to drive the business forward. And third is to identify your importance of customer insights in decision-making process, and to evaluate the effectiveness of marketing decisions like marketing campaigns and other appropriate actions based on the techniques you learn from the program. And the last is to apply the related matrices to analyze the customer insights for the business and to discover the futuristic opportunities. So these are actually the 5 intended learning outcomes which we hope that you will learn and you will take home at the end of the day. Speaking of the target audience, but I'm sure that all of you are actually fitting into one or more of these categories. So you have to be either a marketing professional or a professional at the decision-making level, or a student or an aspiring marketing professional who needs to actually upgrade the competencies and add value to the CV and your career as well. So basically the entry requirement therefore would be anyone to be over 16 years. So that is definitely coming after O-levels, and who have background sound knowledge of English and basic knowledge on digital marketing and also on Excel. So once you do the registrations with SLIM with assistance of our business development officers, you need to complete the documentations. And that is, you need to submit 2 stamp size photographs, a copy of your NIC or your passport, and a copy of your O-level certificate and your any other relevant education certificate. You may be a student already of SLIM who has done another program, but then again, if you're coming into a new program, you're still required to submit the documents of these, which I mentioned right now. You'll be informed about whether to submit a hard copy of this or a soft copy of these documents to your program coordinator. So with that, the registrations, you can obviously do the registrations from the SLIM Business School, Colombo, located at Kitulwata Road, or from the SLIM home premises at Ananda Rajakarna Mawatha. Because at the moment, the program is running only at the Colombo branch of SLIM. So data-driven marketing professional program is strictly on the first intake. It's going on SLIM Colombo. Moving on for the program outline. So I think Mrs. Seninda already gave you a bit of a broader view of what exactly you will study during this program. So like he said, that you will be starting off with the most fundamental, the basics of data-driven marketing, where that you will be first studying about setting up your proper mindset on introduction to data-driven mindset, and then talking about the fundamentals of data analytics, your marketing processes and how you need to collect your data, and then coming in for the later step by step coming into a bit deeper content as AI for business, artificial intelligence, and how you make consumer centric marketing activities, business intelligence, the data visualizers, and then again coming in for the area which he was talking about is on advertising, how you can use data driven mindsets and data into advertising. And also then later on you'll be studying about IoT adaptations and also on the blockchain technology. I am not going to go into detail on these modules because all of these details will be there on the module units, and your detailed outlines will be on your program handbook, and you will receive your program handbook, your text materials upon the completion of your registration documents to the business school coordinator. And with that, the program is actually running in for 4 months. So the 11 modules, and there'll be a 1 assignment and your exams. So that's how this 60 hours of this program comprise of. Assessments and evaluations of the program. The program is actually fully conducted in English medium, and you will have virtual classrooms. So that is on MS Teams classes. And also, as the evaluation, like I mentioned, that you have a practical group assignment which you need to do with 3 members per each group, and also an online MCQ exam as your individual examination. Your group assignment will carry 40% of your final grade, and your individual examination will carry 60% of your final grade, which is actually going to be 50 MCQs, which you need to complete within 90 minutes. And the platform and how you need to do the exam and everything, we will give you a guideline beforehand your exams. Recommended reference here is, again, I've mentioned the name of the text material here. This you will get upon the completion of your registration documents and other documentation work from your business school coordinator. So with that, your assessments and evaluations, you need to score definitely above 75 to get a merit pass, which I believe all of you have the full potential to. And a good pass would be from a 65 to 74, and ordinary would be 40 to 64. I'm definitely not talking about below 40s, because I know definitely for sure that all of you are capable of reaching a merit pass. So with that, your final results, you will have your MCQ exams, online exam through BellQ. And with that, once you complete your writing exam, your final results will be published in the SLIM website after 30 working days from your writing exam, online exam. And your certification and completion, once you complete the program, once the results are out, you can collect your certificate and your transcript from the respective business school you study from. And a date and a time and all other relevant information will be informed to you via an SMS and also via an email. So with that, I think this is the total program brief for all of you. Anything that you would like to clarify here?
participants can unmute themselves and ask the questions or even drop them on the chat. But I guess Hassani gave a very detailed explanation of how things work at Slim. And yes, we have a hand raised.
About the price of the scores and all, can you just let me?
The initial pricing of this program is, of course, you have the total course fee, of course, is 55,000, but you'll be given a 10,000 discount at the initial, since it's inaugural batch of ours. So the 45,000 payment you have to make in 3 installments, which I think Manjita will contact you in a while from the business development office, and he will give you how exactly you need to make the payments and how much an each installment would be on this.
Okay, sorry, this is only the virtual, or do you have any physical?
The classes will, for entire program will run through virtual. So it's on MS Teams.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hassani, and thank you, Ramzi, for your question as well. If there are any other questions, you may raise your hand and voice them out. But I guess Hassani gave a very detailed set of instructions to follow if you want to enroll yourself at Slim. Definitely, before I move on, there is another question from Shaminder.
Yes, you mentioned about printed material, so we need to collect it, or you want to send it? Is there a textbook?
You're referring to the registration documents, or?
Yeah, I registered. I did the first payment and all that. Is there a textbook that we need to collect before starting?
No, all the materials are e-materials actually. So the text materials and everything, the PDF documents or the e-library accesses, everything will be shared to you after you start the classes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so then we can wrap up today. And if you have any more questions about this program, you can definitely reach out to Slim through their website, email. Communication is just very easy these days. And this recording of the webinar will also be posted on YouTube in a few hours, so you can refer to it again. And if you have any questions to be answered, definitely do not hesitate to reach out to Slim. With that, thank you to our guest speaker, Mr. Dino, and also lecturer from Slim, Saininder, and Hassani, for giving us all the information that we need to on the data-driven marketing professional program this open day. So thank you very much for everybody who joined us today as well on a Sunday evening. Hope you stay safe, and I'm Fatima Saliha, and I wish you a very good week ahead.